As part of Ferrari Fridays, William Ross from the exotic car marketplace will be discussing all things Ferrari and interviewing people that live and breathe the Ferrari brand. Topics range from road cars to racing, drivers to owners, as well as auctions, private sales, and trends in the collector market.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ferrari Marketplace. You know me, William, and got my buddy and partner here, Eric's on the other side of this. And then we're going to revisit, I guess you could say. We had a review of the Car Masters episodes being shown on Netflix. It kind of left it at a cliffhanging moment, which they really didn't go back into season 6. They just went a completely different route. I don't know what they're thinking at Counts Customs. I'm sorry.
The Gotham Garage.
So if anyone's watching, every time I see their gates, it says Gotham, I'm just thinking it looks just like Counts Custom. Man, are they just like copying those guys or what's the deal?
Picture it, January 2024, when season 5 came out. This is the first time Car Masters has aired what I call the second half or the next season in the same year, because we've gone so long between seasons, you almost forget about it. Sometimes you're like, oh, shoot, another season of Car Masters.
In all honesty, till you said something about it, I had completely forgot about the show and it's out of my mind.
If you're watching this behind the scenes on Patreon, I dressed the part. I got my beanie, logoed. I'm looking my best Mark Towley, right? I don't have the ponytail like he does, but, I figured I got to dress the part to get into the mood for this.
Think that ponytail's real?
No. I think he's bald. He's bald under there.
Well, I guess you would say start with season 5. It was absolutely horrendous what these people did to this 360. It just got even worse for season 6 that just got released. There were some Ferraris involved in the beginning. There's one at the end. We'll get to that.
You and I talked about the Green Monster, the 360, and as you mentioned, the season ended on a cliffhanger, which now we find out is West Coast Exotics touring the dealership. And at the time, Nick Smith presented a package deal, this sort of ultimatum, all or nothing, get into the high-end community, with a navy blue Ferrari 612 Scaglietti and then a Ferrari 458 Italia that were supposed to be customized with no confirmed client. Bargain combo for the low price of $290K. And you're sitting there going, how the hell are you getting these two cars for $300,000? That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. What's going on with that?
So they left us there. Again, as my wife likes to point out when we watch the show together, it always sort of feels like half a season at a time is what we're getting. And okay, so be it. So when we start season 6, we're sort of doubling down. We find ourselves resetting the entire scene. Like, all right, guys, forget what happened in season 5. We're at West Coast Exotics again, and we're presented with 2 Ferraris. And we're like, wait, what happened to the blue car and the black car? Now we got a white car and a yellow car. And instead of a 612 and a 458, we've got a F8 Tributo and a 488 GTB.
Yeah, completely changed. Completely different cars.
But the deal remains the same, $300,000 for these 2 cars. And I'm scratching my head. Even my wife's going, one of these has to be worth $300,000 by itself. There's no way.
Well, that's what was baffling me. It's like, all right, is it got a salvage title? There's something more to that story on those cars that they obviously don't go into at all. If I walked into a dealership and it says, oh, you can have this basically 3-year-old car and 5-year-old car for $300,000 both that both retailed over $300,000 brand new just a few years ago, it's not like they're depreciating that bad.
No.
I would have said done. But obviously, there's a lot more to, hey, all right, what's the story behind these cars and whatnot? That's what I'm saying. Maybe they're salvaged and whatnot because their intent was anyways to hack them up and do something to them.
Which is true of the 360 that they modified. That car was an accident car or an insurance car or repo car. It was missing pieces, bumpers, all sorts of stuff. So in that sense, it made sense. We're going to take a salvage title.
And they made it worse.
Well, we don't need to rehash that. There's a whole episode on that thing. So again, we find ourselves at West Coast Exotics with this yellow 488 coupe and a white F8 Tributo. And you maintain a Ferrari market value index on your website. And correct me if I'm wrong, William, the F8 is trending at $350,000 by itself.
Yep.
And the 488 is around $250,000. How did they end up with a 2-for-1 deal of $300K when, to me, that adds up to basically $700,000 in car?
That's even under wholesale. That's another thing, too, that was kind of a scratch in my head because I would love to know what the hell the background story was on those cars. You go look at wholesale numbers on that. That's still way, way under wholesale numbers. So it's like, what is the story behind this car? Again, they didn't get into it, so who knows? But there was no physical attributes looking at the car saying, well, okay, there's a ding here, scratch here, da da da. There was really nothing very blatant saying, "Oh, I can see why they're so cheap." They look fine to me. So I mean, unless they had 100,000 miles each on them, and that was a steal and a half. I mean, that was just a no-brainer. Just taking those just to flip them. Yeah, they might have sat on them for a bit, but I mean, you're going to make money one way or another on those cars, as we'll get into what they did with one of them. But that's still a head scratcher to me, how that came about. And the other things, maybe, and again, that being below wholesale. And even if those cars have been sitting there for 6, 7, 8, 9 months, obviously just taking up space, how they have their dealership set up, if they're doing floor financing and what they're doing on that, if they're paying a nut on that every month, or smart way to do it is, you own everything because you pay cash. I mean, that's the best way to ever set up your dealership if you ever get into that industry. I don't know, maybe West Coast Exotics thought, well, hey, all right, put our name out there with this. You give us 5-10 minutes of the screen time, and that turns into, hey, advertising, marketing for us, so we can deduct this because, hey, we're getting exposure because you have X amount of viewers and whatever, blah, 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 Netflix. I mean, I don't know.
I think in Hollywood, they call that product placement.
There you go. Exactly. There's so many ways to skin a pig, right?
Unlike the 360 that they trailered in, they drove both those cars in. They're street legal. They ran. They seem to have almost zero issues whatsoever.
Well, before we delve into these two cars, I kind of want to get into their mindset, what they're thinking in regards to, we're going to take our garage this way. This is what we got more high-end stuff, because they think, we've struck the mother lode. They just gaudied up this 360, and whatever rich meth head they got to buy that car is beyond me. So they're thinking, we got this thing. And, they make good money on the car. So I was thinking, what they say, 45 grand or something like that?
Yeah, in profit.
So if he's got all his costs, everything, labor and that stuff covered in that, so there's 45 grand profit, well, you can't ignore that. Say, hey, we're on to something.
And I like that he had enough leftover paint that he resprayed his truck the same color as the Ferrari.
Oh, my God. That thing is, Lord have mercy.
Did you notice the Corvette that he had in the background that was also matching the truck?
Yeah. It kills me is there's like, and he's always saying, I'm the creative one. I have all these, just let my juices flow. Give me creative control. I'm just going to do it. I was like, oh my God, I've seen what you do. That'd be a nightmare. And if anyone's watched this show, they're not going to give you creative control because it's horrendous. Nick should understand. I don't know if anyone's looked into his background. He's got a little dealership. He delves into these little cars. I mean, he's not all just Ferraris, Lamborghinis, stuff like that. He gets into lesser expensive product.
And he's known for vintage bikes as his thing.
Yeah. How he got tangless, who knows? But it was like no real thought and conversation was had. Nick understands that market, that industry, those clients in regards to how it's going to work and what these people are and how they are. Those other guys, they had no clue. And they're just kind of going off base. And it seems like Nick should have sat down and had a very, very serious conversation with him and got him, I would say sign off, but say, look, and hammered it home 5, 6, 7 different times to him. Say, do you understand? No one's going to give you carte blanche unless they're just incredibly stupid, or as we'll get into with that McLaren in a future episode, to someone's a YouTuber and they just want to get views and hits and whatnot.
Yeah.
That was a head scratch to me too. It was like, oh my God, they're just jumping in with just completely blind, not understanding this at all and thinking, we're going to make 50, 60, 70, 80 grand in all these. And we're just going to make these things look ugly as shit. But anyways, continue.
There comes a couple of points in the first half of the season where Nick is like, look, whatever you do has to be not so much subtle, but it needs to be in line with the ethos of Ferrari, because if you do something drastic, the value of the car is going to plummet significantly. That 350 grand that Tributo is worth, if they just sold it at that moment, take 100 grand off the car easily, because who wants a highly customized F8 Tributo or a 488 GTB or whatever? Now, let's get into his plan a little bit, because I didn't disagree with his thought process. The execution is something else. Mark turned his attention on the white car. Satin white finished F8 Tributo. And they kind of parked the 488, which was in Giallo, which is yellow, off to the side. And they're like, we'll deal with that car later. Okay, fine. When he first shows the plan for the Tributo, I went, ooh, F40. I like this. I see where you're going. That's kind of neat. Wide body is his thing and big wheels and all that kind of stuff.
I'm glad you saw that. That was just a total ripoff of an F40 front end.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I can live with that. Now, the back end is always a problem. And we'll get to that as we continue talking about these cars. But the front, I was like, okay, I'm on board. I would love to see you do this, but how are you going to do this without destroying the car? And in my opinion, that would have meant taking the hood off, taking the bumper off, taking the fenders off, making it so you could convert the car back to what it originally was. But you're going to have to create an F40 clamshell from scratch. And I don't know that that was money and time well spent in that sense. They nipped that in the bud pretty quick. Nick turns around and tells him the guy wants some vinyls, suspension adjustment, and he wants wheels and a couple other little just simple mods. You could tell everybody was like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What's the point? Which at that moment, my wife turns and goes, sometimes it's okay to just be a tuner shop. If that's what the clientele wants, and you can make profit on wheels and you can make profit on an exhaust.
Profit's profit.
Exactly. So I didn't take issue with it. I do think it was a huge letdown because there was all this build up to what they were going to do with the Tributo. And it's like, okay, well, you added 2 vinyl stripes and you put on some actually kind of neat looking wheels.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I liked them.
I did love that the Gotham Garage Shield double G thing was glued on, and you could see him like with 3M tape, like putting it on. You knew that was coming right off.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. That's another thing too. And you see a lot of those that you see on TV and stuff and do that. And you see it in this series too, putting their name, everything on that. And you're putting it out there, but it's gaudies it up so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, and that logo sticking up there on the front. I mean, that's a scenario where saying, hey, do you mind, hey, if we do this and this? And I'd be like, if I didn't mind, I'd be like, well, then take some money off because that's advertising for you.
Yeah, that is a weird situation to be in. Now, I do think that those Gotham Garage emblems came off pretty quickly after the car was returned to West Coast.
Yeah.
I did check their inventory to see if either of those 2 cars are still there, and they're not available, not for sale. So whether they haven't updated or they took them down because the show is airing or whatever, but they don't list them as available there. So the Tributo, all well and good aesthetically, nothing drastic, nothing major. The Italian stripes lended more to like the Lamborghini Performante, which came with those stripes from the factory. It's kind of the same idea, especially offset, asymmetrical. Yeah. Okay, nothing really original there. That's fine. Now, the exhaust swap was kind of interesting, but they didn't make that exhaust. They bought that exhaust. That was a bolt-on competition replacement exhaust or whatever, which then they had issues with.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is they didn't get into it. They said, oh, we got the guys coming over. They're going to diagnose, see what the hell's going on with it, why it's coming up. Then they didn't explain, oh, here's what happened. So obviously, I guess they fixed it. Maybe it's just going into ECU. So, but I mean, you have no clue.
Swap 2 vacuum lines because it's a baffled exhaust and away they went. What clued me in there is when they called West Coast and brought the guys over to quote unquote fix the car, or at least help them fix the car. My wife and I paused and we were like, so is this the new deal? They're going to be doing the tuning work for West Coast because they don't do their own tuning. They're the dealership. They just want to flip the cars and sell them. That's not a bad relationship. That's not a bad side hustle to have. It's like, here's a bill of materials that the client wants. You guys take care of it. We give you 3 or 4 points on the deal and the margin on the parts or whatever. And away you go. But that's not what Mark wants, right? Mark wants to cut these cars up.
Which is sad because it's like to Nick's point, it takes time. You got to build up. One, I mean, that's a great upsell for West Coast because if a guy comes in and says, well, I like that, but I want some more zing to it. I went, well, hey, tell you what, this is what we can do. We have a partner we work with. What's your thoughts and ideas? And we can get it done for you and do the upsell. And right there, the dealership can tack on crap loads of profit into that. And then, like you said, market stuff in the back end. But what happens is the dealer says, hey, this is who we partner with. So they know who it is. So what do they do when they get tired of that after 6 months, a year, or whatnot, or they got all their hits and everything they wanted on their channels and Instagram? They go back to Gotham, say, hey, tell you what, I need a new wrap. I need this, da-da-da. Then all of a sudden you're getting repeat business. And then now this person is coming direct to you. So you got the full boat, on this stuff. It's very short-sighted thinking. And it's kind of like ego getting in the way, not thinking of business. And especially how they have that set up. Because that's the other thing too, is I know in the earlier season how they originally set this up is they all share in the profits. It's not like these people are getting an hourly, nothing like that, unless they changed it. I don't know. But my understanding is they all share in the profits and whatnot. So this is all of them basically. It's like an employee-owned shop, in essence, ESOP, whatever it is. Profit's profit. And it's not like they got 50 cars or 20 car jobs lined up. And you can turn and burn those things in a day or two.
Yeah.
That's easy money. Buying the wheels, fixing the stands. The exhaust might take a bit, but doing the vinyl wrap, whatever on it, that's a day or two, depending on the extent of it. And it gets him into that market. That's the thing that I just don't understand. He does not see it.
And we're still just talking about the first episode. And one thing that Nick said towards the end of that episode is, and I thought it was code for something, you could tell there was tension between him and Mark. Like things weren't going well for a while. And you have to imagine 10 months has gone by or longer since they shot and released season 5 to season 6 and all that kind of stuff. But Nick says, and he keeps saying, we got lucky with the 360.
I was catching that too. And I was like, damn straight. And that goes back to my comment. Whatever meth head rich guy they got to buy that thing is, man, they should have been thanking the man upstairs for that, because God, that thing was so ugly. I'm using the word someone said on the show, they used that. And I was like, that is just sums everything up right there in that car. Cause it was just absolutely gaudy as anything. I mean, that's someone's just got stupid money and saying, you know what, I'm going to be on the show and I don't care. I got to drop 160, 170 grand, whatever it was they sold it for, and who cares? He's just got dumb money.
Look at it this way. A year later, we're still talking about the Green Monster. So,
oh yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah. What's that ad saying? It is
all publicity is good publicity, even if it's bad.
There you go. Yeah. Unless you're Diddy.
Let's talk a little bit about the 488. Sitting in the corner, we don't know what the heck's going on with this Giallo 488 GTB.
That yellow's beautiful. I mean, and that's a factory colored car. Even that makes it a little, I would say rare, but
I'm not a fan of yellow Ferraris, but the 488 wears it well, which is surprising. You know what I mean? I'm like, that actually looks pretty good. I think the 488 honestly looks worse in red. If I had to choose between ketchup and mustard, probably go with the yellow in that case. But granted, I'm a big fan of gray and black Ferraris, but that's a whole nother story, right? We sort of pan left suddenly, and Nick shows up with a McLaren. Like after the F8's gone, we're on to the next exotic, and I'm like, McLaren, okay.
Out of left field, all of a sudden, it's just, and again, they just drop the whole storyline. You have to guarantee that there's a lot of people watching. Well, what the hell happened to them? What'd you guys do? I mean, did you just sell them? It'd take you a minute and a half or not even just to kind of go in the storyline saying, well, hey, we wholesaled it, or we did this, or we gave it back to, whatever. Tell people what you end up doing with the car, because it's just hanging out there. They know they have the client and the customer. They dialed up the F8, which, again, didn't turn out bad. Looked pretty good. But what did you do? You always see is Nick driving out with the car. That's it.
On to the next one.
Then there's McLaren shenanigans.
I knew something was up. Even my wife says this feels a little staged because of all the tape and the cardboard and all the stuff that they were mocking up. They weren't really working on it like they would something else. They started to do that with the Tributo as well, where they were like, well, this is where we're going to cut the fenders. And they weren't really, it was all just tape and magic markers, that kind of stuff. I don't know if Mark actually knew this kid was a kid. What was he? Maybe 20 years old? YouTuber, TikToker?
Yeah, at best, if that. And you would think the kid must have been all hyped up on his Adderall or something, because, I mean, he came in just all geeked up.
I mean, he was thinking Need for Speed Underground. It was like, we're going to put LED lights and we're going to big wheels and wings and flames. And I'm like, holy cow. That is Mark's target audience, is the people that are really into, as my wife likes to call it, Hot Wheels cars. And that's his shtick. And that's fine. And he does that really, really well. But I was like, this is a new McLaren. Like, seriously? And then Nick shows up with his dad.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it this way, shit gets real fast.
Oh, God, yeah. And, and you have to wonder, too, and on that scenario, I would put some of that blame, a good portion of that, on Nick. Nick had to have known the whole situation, because I would have to say, I mean, I can't imagine some young kid like that came to me. My first thing goes, so wait, is this your car titled in your name? You can do what you want. Dad's not involved. Mom's not involved. And get it clarified, because then if he says, oh, yeah, it's mine. Okay, then you put it on the kid. But if he would just went blind, the kind of this kid reached out and says, hey, I got a McLaren. I want to do this stuff. And Nick's like, yeah, okay, we can do it, and not really doing some due diligence. I mean, that's some egg on your face.
I also feel like it was a little petty. My wife said it felt like Nick was trying to prove a point to the crew, because the dad was really open and transparent. That was not scripted. He was like, what are you thinking? The value of this car. Like, he went on this tirade about, not no way, not no how. And I was like, amen. And you could see when they would shoot Nick in the background, he had this cat eating the canary grin on his face. Like, I'm making my point very clear that you cannot do what you want to do with these cars. These types of buyers are all going to be kind of cut from this mold. So pay very close attention to what he's saying, because that's what they're going to want and that's what they're going to pay for.
Another thing, too, and again, it's a missed opportunity, because it kind of goes back to what they did in the F8. Someone could have stepped in, and it should have been Nick. Tell you what, we obviously want to do do some of this with the car. She wants to do this with it. Where's our happy medium? Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's not do all the flares, whatnot. What if we got into doing this? And again, it's baby steps. Putting the underground light in it, doing a wrap on it, this and that, putting some new wheels on it. Not getting too nuts and cutting the body all up, but you could do 15, 25 grand out the door and cost you maybe 8 to 10. You know, hey, you can make some good money on it. But again, no one stepped in to do it. But to your point is Nick's in the background, whatnot, saying, look, see, this is what I've been trying to tell you and you're not listening to me. And that's exactly where they went.
And the other thing that my wife and I talked about was what happens if this kid is driving his dad's McLaren, as we found out, and his dad goes off about like, how are you going to clear the driveway with the splitter and how are you going to drive this every day? And it must be nice to, you know, be 20 years old and driving a McLaren every day. And that's fine.
Real world problems.
To each their own. But my wife said, what if that kid, God forbid, got into an accident with a modified McLaren? How does the insurance company handle that? Where you've cut up the car and now they got to replace big sections of the car with stuff that maybe didn't need to be repaired in the same way. Does it change the safety? Does it do this? Does it do that? So it's like, where does this rabbit hole finish when you think about it from the perspective of I'm putting this highly modified car in the hands of a young driver?
Obviously, you know, real world stepped in with dad standing there and pointing out all these things. Yeah, because guarantee that kid drive around, he was going to crash it at some point in time, be in the first 6 hours or first 60 days. It was going to happen. That McLaren, it's a beautiful car too. I mean, what else you'd really want to do that anyway?
And the dad says that. He says something like, this car was perfection from when it left the factory. And he's like, what are you going to do to it?
Flares. Well, first of all, that's like 2 feet coming out that side. So you're adding another 4 feet.
It'll be as big as a dually. It'll be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's just obnoxious. And again, it's just not being realistic in regards to that market. Again, it's a missed opportunity for them.
It is.
It's the way they operate.
And so now we're talking broader exotics and collector cars too at the same time, right? And so this is such a weird season because there's this interweaving of classic muscle hot rods, all the stuff that they like to do, you know, big military vehicles and all that kind of stuff, not to give away the whole season. And then we got these exotics. And included in the exotics, I think, was a bit of foreshadowing. You don't realize until the end of the season why they suddenly brought in a DeLorean. You're like, what the heck is this about?
Yeah.
And to give it away is they're setting up this whole idea of doing nostalgia cars. At the end of the show, which we'll talk about another Ferrari, they hone in on, you know, Magnum PI. My wife and I were laughing about, you know, next is Knight Rider and the Flintstones and the Munsters and God knows what else. But the DeLorean is another nostalgia car. And so they did it almost like it's like a litmus test. And it was really interesting because it goes right in line with what Nick was saying about these high-end exotics. The customers want things a certain way. And when they did the DeLorean, Mark goes, the DeLorean community is very specific about the way they preserve these cars. You don't mess with the stainless. You don't do this. And the client was exactly like that. So what did they do? They wrapped it. And I'm just like, oh my God, this guy is going to have an aneurysm when he sees this car.
Oh my God. And that kills me because I always go back to my mind and go, this guy thinks he's creative and he can create. Oh my God. It was, again, fugly. Unbelievable what they did to that thing. And they put the exhaust on. Okay, it did sound a little bit better, but that thing's got 130 horsepower. You need to do something with the motor if you're going to do something.
Yeah.
But again, just doing aesthetic. And here's the funny thing is that almost went back to exactly what they did on the F8. Just a little bit more. They put the air dam side skirt under tray. I mean, they did a little bit more, but it was basically almost the same thing they did with the F8 that they were bitching and moaning about, saying, well, we're not just going to be a tuner shop. You know, it's like, well, you basically did that with the DeLorean.
And I have to say that rear splitter was just, oh my God. Let's add some more weight to an already rear biased car.
Yeah, I saw those brackets they were putting on there to mount that thing. They had a quick shot of it where it was, I'm like, wait a minute. That's just, oh my God, that thing's just going to kill it.
That's so the owner can just unbolt it and throw it in the trash.
Yeah, I felt so bad, you know, and the guys, you know, very adamant about the aluminum. And Mark's like, no, we're going to wrap it. Screw it. We're going to do it. And then that wrap was just horrendous. And was the dock being nice for the show? Oh, it looks great, this and that. And then as soon as he got to take that shit off, it didn't do anything to it. No.
I have seen some painted DeLoreans, black and some other colors, and they actually look really cool when they're done right. So I wasn't opposed to wrapping it because, as my wife pointed out, if Doc doesn't like it, they can just rip it right back off the car and it's back to stainless steel. No harm, no foul. Painting is a bigger deal, and painting stainless is really, really tough anyway. I've seen them in other colors and I think they look neat. The candy apple carbon fiber probably wouldn't have been my first choice. But then again, you're sort of limited on what that car can wear that it'll look good. I thought the wheel choice was bold, but it actually worked for the body style.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I don't know. It just baffles me each time you think he's being creative on this. Now, I'm not going to take it away from the people in the shop.
No, they're awesome.
Yeah, the caveman's just a monkey just cutting stuff up, whatnot. Assembles things, takes it apart, and cuts it up. But, the new guy, Jake, they kept, he's really good. The girl, she's a great engine builder. She knows what she's talking about. And the other guy, he's fabbing up, metalwork, everything like that. I mean, he does some really creative things in what he can build. I just don't see this creative that Mark thinks he has.
My wife and I always enjoy the episodes where Mark, Sean, and Nick are out of the way and it's just the crew working. And I'll just lightly reference the Humvee build with the biodiesel. And I was talking about that. And I said, I love when Tony starts to talk and he's like the professor of the group. And he's like, look, guys, this is how it works. And if you do this and then the science of that, and we're going to take it over to the machine and we're going to run it in the CAD and it's going to blah, blah, blah. Dude, we're learning something. Like, this is awesome. There's another show on Motor Trend and it's like one guy or two guys. And he's very like that. He talks through the process, why he's building it that way, why we got to curve it like this. And it's super educational. Now, it might not be exciting and dramatic.
Yeah.
Less reality television and more reality, like the science of car building. I always appreciate when they have a build like that where they can do what they need to do. It's still creative, but we're learning, to your point, what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah.
The DeLorean is this beginning, this foreshadowing of this nostalgia thing that Mark's got running around in his head. You see it again with the Kenworth semi-truck and all that kind of stuff. Now, we'll leave that to the article that I'm writing that reviews the entire season. But let's get back into the Ferrari saga.
Talking about the guys, what they're able to do. So, I mean, I guess bringing Mark's vision to life. Obviously, there's episodes that go on between. There's some stuff that happens, changing up their thought process, some hiccups and whatnot. But we get to the next Ferrari. The one episode it ends, Mark and Nick have a conversation and basically states, hey, we'll leave on good terms. Nick, you get something that comes about. Hey, let's work together. But, this is just not what we're going to do. So right there, you think, okay, that's it. Exit Nick, stage left. That's it. You're not going to see him on the show anymore. How they do these shows, if they're scripted out, planned out, or if it's done, hey, they don't know what they're doing from 2 weeks to the next. I don't know, but you weren't going to hear from Nick at all. Out of the blue, all of a sudden he reaches out and says he has something of interest. I want to say it was a 78 or 79. It was one of the early ones. It was a Ferrari 308. It looked like it was sitting for a while because it was a bit dusty and dirty. But what it is the guy that owned it obviously has a ton of money. He had a bunch of toys. Mark is trying to do this on his own because, Sean's all of a sudden all jazzed up because now, hey, we're getting back to our roots, this and that. So he got his juices flowing again and everything like that. In the one episode, he starts working on this big package deal where we're going to build this and trade that and get this and work our way up. It's almost like work your way up to a Ferrari from a paperclip situation. So that's going on. They talk about, which you'll read about and see, is Mark finishes building a Kenworth truck that was kind of basically a tribute to his dad's truck that his dad used to drive back in the day for work, and he was very familiar with it. So he does that up. I don't know about that front grille, but it turns out pretty decent. So Mark's kind of working with Nick. Nick reached out to Mark. Says, hey, we got something to work on. Now, one whole deal fell through on the Humvee. That's a whole story in itself. And some people got to go to themselves, where do they dig up these customers and this stuff? I got to tell you what, that's where a lot of these people act and are and the way they think. Especially when they have money, they just think, oh, I'm going to hoodwink these guys and this and that and stuff like that. And you get really annoyed with them. And there's one guy in regards to this Camaro they do a deal with that I would have punched the guy in the face when he was trying to pull that with me, because it was just, that was annoying to me. Go, this guy's just a piece of you know what? But anyways, the one whole deal falls through on this Humvee. So that was supposed to get traded for the Jag that they were supposed to then all of a sudden work on and get into a six-figure range, what they had in their mind, thinking it was going to be a $200,000 car.
You imagine what they would have done to that Jag?
Exactly. Oh my God. That was in my mind. Go, what in the hell would they do to that poor Jag? I mean, that thing, as we all know, and everyone says, oh, Enzo said that's the most beautiful car ever. There's much debate at that, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous car. You don't touch that. You don't do anything to it.
63 Series 2 convertible. Like,
yeah.
That's the perfect E-type Jag. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly. And it's like, oh my God. So that all falls through. So they're stuck. They have no project, nothing going on. So Mark becomes the wheeler dealer. When Nick calls about this, he wasn't sure what he's going to do with the truck. Well, it turns out, this guy is pretty eclectic in regards to what he likes to have in his garage, which you see when they go there. He brings the semi and basically ends up trading the semi for the Ferrari. I don't know, trucks, semis like that, value-wise, whatnot. I know some of those older trucks like that, when they're done, they're worth some big money. So it's not like it's cheap. But I want to say the guy with the Ferrari, I think, kind of made out in the positive, because that 308, you could tell had been sitting a while, a lot of dust on it, dirt, everything like that. It did fire up, but service-wise, I mean, that thing needed to be gone through left to right, which is something else we can talk about, which they didn't even say anything about on this car.
And so I went back to your Ferrari Market Index to see where the 308 GTSs are trending. And so obviously there's a lot of variables to that. Like you're saying, mileage, records, condition, did it have this option or that option? This is a US spec 308 GTS because it's got the big park bench bumpers and all that kind of stuff. According to the market, 88,000 for a 308 in probably pristine condition.
Yeah.
So they were saying in the show 60 to 70 grand. The truck was probably worth 120 to 150 in that range. So Mark's like, I'm upside down, but it's going to take me months to unload a custom semi, which probably isn't far from the truth. So I think he saw his exit and he's like, I'm going to take it in the shorts because we can continue to move the ball forward. And then a bunch of people got upset by that, but it's business, right? I don't think he made the wrong move.
No, and I applaud him for that, because when you have a business like that and you're the one running the show and it's you and the buck stops with you, those are the type of decision and moves you have to make. They're going to hurt. What's more important, you keeping your toy or moving things forward to grow your business? Again, looking down the road in the future, okay, once we get bigger, blah, 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 hey, I'll buy another one, this and that. I applaud him for making that move, because he left a lot of money on the table, but hey, he got going and got it. The body, everything on that car looked like it was in decent shape. Didn't look bad, but again, who knows service history wise or whatnot. My guess would be is that guy that traded it with didn't have it long, or he just picked it up recently. Because when you see the guy's garage, everything's got, you think within the first 2 weeks that he has something, he's going to clean it, do whatever. So who knows how this guy got the car. So, but then they get it, and lo and behold, what happens is they show up at the shop with it, surprising everyone else in the shop. Well, okay, now we're back to doing exotics, so to speak, if they want to call the 308 an exotic. It was that curveball. Mark's sitting there, and who drives it in? Nick. That was kind of an interesting setup, but again, being scripted. I would hope for, I guess you say, realism, that they didn't tell everyone in the shop what was happening.
Yeah.
It should have surprised them. I would hope that's how they went about doing it, because get that authentic, whoa, what the hell? I didn't think we were doing these anymore.
Yeah, and Sean seemed legitimately angry. Like, my wife and I both thought he was going to quit on the spot.
Oh, I did too.
Which wasn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm sort of tired of his style, and I don't want them to replace him, but they need to replace him, or they need to do this differently. Again, talking about the next season, if there is one, I think they are going to do things differently, because this model of the negotiation and the way they do things is tired. It's old. We need to move on from that. Now, Nick's style isn't any better.
No.
It's different, but it's also cringy, and it's just whatever. So yes, they show up at the shop, and we thought that Sean was done.
I thought he was going to cry.
You can't fake that. Like, he was visibly disturbed.
And, and I don't know why, in all honesty, because when you have a shop like that, if you're going, all right, I got one person I only deal with, and he works here, he's fine, you're just setting yourself up. I mean, in this industry, and doing especially that, is you got to have so many contacts and whatnot, and who cares where the car or the source or anything came from? Hey, if it's going to work, you do it. And he should recognize that. My reaction would have been, oh, sweet. Oh, hey, great job, Nick. This is awesome. We can do this and that. Who's this guy we got it from? And what's his deal? And blah, blah, blah. Hey, what other opportunity is there? Again, very close-minded, and took it very personally, thinking he sucked at his job, he was going to get fired or whatnot. I had the same thought. I thought when he walked out that door, the next scene was going to be him like out in the parking lot talking to the things, saying, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to be treated or disrespected, blah, blah, blah. They sat down and talked it out. Something about him, I don't know, just seems shady. I don't know. Yeah. He's got that weird vibe. The way he goes about talking and everything, just like he's hiding something. It's like, I don't know what it is, but it just seems, and the way he has that talk and this and that, and the way he just goes about doing things, it's just like, oh.
It's sort of like the old wanted posters in the post office. You're like, did you buy a car from this man? I'm like, I don't think so.
Exactly. So obviously the tension, you got to have your tension and whatnot, your little drama stuff for the show. But they get the 308, silver, black interior. And as they do in the other episodes, as everyone that watches knows, is they do the computer generated what they're going to do. Oh my God.
Everybody loves to rip that whole thing off from the Great British Baking Show. Like, let's do the artist's rendering of what it's going to be.
Yeah. Then you start hearing the wife is getting this for her husband as a birthday present. So it's going to be a surprise. So there's no input from the person that's getting it. Hey, well, I want the Magnum PI, this and that. So, okay, what are you, peanut red? Get into some little stuff to add to it. Oh, some Italian racing theme to it. But if you can, and she's willing to pay a little extra if you guys can do it and they like it, some Inspector Gadget stuff.
Right.
I.e. some James Bond stuff in this car. So like, oh my God, this is just, you start picturing shit, what are you doing? Then they go to the computer generated stuff and you're like, wait, what? They're going to do what? It's like, okay, maybe they're just exaggerating on the computer generated stuff. But then all of a sudden you see them, they're disbanding the car, taking out the ugly bumpers, whatnot. But then you see them put on the first fender flare. And I'm like, oh my.
This to me was reminiscent of, I think it was season 4, where they did the Mako Shark C3 Corvette, and they're widening it, and the side pipes and the big flares and the big wheels and all this, and in a very Hot Wheels style, which in some ways I was on board with modding that C3 Corvette. And in the same way, I was on board with modding the Ferrari because, like you said, is it really an exotic? It is the most mass-produced Ferrari of all time. It's like the 944 for Porsche. It's what saved them from going under, the same idea. So there's a ton of 308s out there. So I didn't feel so bad about them cutting it up, but there's a certain way of going about it. When you looked at the plan, as I like to call it, the renderings,
air quotes in that plan.
Yeah, it's a little bit shooting from the hip. But I was sort of thinking, okay, we were going to do an F40 tribute with the F8. Is he going to do a 288 GTO? Is he going to do a 308 Evoluzione, like wide body? Yep. Is he going to try like this and that and the other thing? And they kept harping about, we need to defuglify the car, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Knock all the fugly off it is the exact quote that Mark uses. And I'm like, okay, so you get rid of the US spec bumpers, you get rid of this, you get rid of that, can sort of see in my head maybe where you're going. And then it was again like a carbon copy of what he had done before. And my biggest complaint with it is the unfinished rear fender quarter panel section. He has a tendency to leave the wheels in the back exposed, and it just bugs me because it breaks up the shape of the car. But the front, that grill, I mean, literally, to use the rapper term, that grill, not the grill, it looked like braces on a teenager. Like, I didn't understand what they were doing because you only have so many options with the 308. You can very quickly make it look like a 288. You can make it look like a 328 with the square air dam front end. But I was like, what are we doing to this?
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, I was really actually happy with the front minus the grill. And the side skirts, like it worked to a point, and then those scoops and that rear fender, and I would have done the SS Camaro tail. I would have extended the rear end. I would have exaggerated that. I would have brought it down. I would have brought it into the fenders. Like a bunch of other stuff could have been done to that.
Well, like you were saying, I had the thought, we mentioned before, Liberty Walk does their kits and everything like that. But what they do, and a lot of these other, do it is, they don't just tack on a fender flare at the arch and that's it. So you got this thing just sticking out.
Yeah.
They take that whole panel and shape it so it's all extended out one piece, i.e. a la, hey, looks like a 288 just on steroids because it's bigger and beefier.
Bigger and beefier to the tone of 14-inch wheels. Huge.
That's why I was hoping, okay, it's got promise because, again, have at it. Do something really cool to it, really fatten up and do it, but they just tack shit on. That was it.
I'm a fan of a wide body when a wide body is done correctly. And a 308 wears a wide body really, really well. If you look at even was a year or two ago, that SEMA 308 that had the Honda VTEC in it, and there's been a couple other ones that have been done really, really well, and they look awesome. Now, I get it. Mark's going to do it in his style, and he doesn't want to copy somebody else and this and that and the other. But I've seen some of the other stuff that he's done, and it's like, come on, man. Like, smooth it out. Make this sucker, like, just look menacing. And a 308 can look really just diabolical, right? And it could be a very James Bond car if you dress it up right. But it was just, like you said, it was sort of tacked on. And I think the problem came in when they had the wheels made for the car. And I don't know what the hell they measured because I think a 10.5 or a 12 would have been the maximum under that body. The first time he cut the fender, I said, we are so screwed, because I looked at it and I said, there's no way you can turn into a parking spot with this car.
No. And even after they think, oh, I think we're good. Oh, and then he makes the comment, oh, even when it's turned at the suspension, it'll clear it. I'm like, I guarantee the first time that guy goes turning left or right into a driveway or something, it's going to.
And I understood what he was saying. When you're turning, the nose is going to lift, but that's going to happen at speed. But the problem is you're not thinking about the other side where the suspension is compressing and then cutting the tire. Yeah. And not only that, they did the stretch tire thing like you see on a Japanese import as well. And I'm just like, they did as much as they could to fit the biggest wheel possible in there. If I was building it, I would have gone, okay, do we have more space on the inside to have the wheel offset internally? Maybe put coilovers in there, get rid of the stock 308 suspension, because they didn't touch any of that stuff. And I'm like, there's ways to make space and fit a big wheel, and it's not shoving it to the outside of the car and then cutting the body.
Yeah. I don't know where they got their history lesson or whatnot in that car and that frame. That's just a metal tube chassis, basically. There's plenty of room to go into that thing. So I don't know what he was talking about with cutting into the unibody, this and that. I'm like, huh?
Well, I think for them, anything that isn't American style body on frame is considered unibody, right? Yeah. Regardless of the fact that it's a tube frame car, regardless of the way those things were assembled, it's just, okay, well, it's a unibody in their world.
Then you think too, and it kind of popped into my head, okay, maybe just because they're in a tight time frame, they had 11 days to do it. That's kind of the other thing to this equation. Now, if they had all the time in the world, or hey, they had 6 months to do it, you go back to other episodes and see what they've done in the past. This is their MO.
Yeah.
This is just how they do it. I think even if they had 6 months to do it instead of 11 days, it would have turned out the same product. You know, it's unfortunate because that car can be something really cool. We've seen it out there. People posting and whatnot. Great car to start with. It's super light. 2,000 pounds. Just got to get rid of the motor because, you got 210 horsepower, I think, with that earlier one.
Out of a 3-liter. Yeah. It's like, okay.
It ain't going anywhere quickly. But again, it's got kind of thing, lightness thing. But it's, again, just about aesthetic. So you could do something good with it. But again, they just tack this shit on and it looks unfinished. I'm thinking to myself, too, is they're lucky in the fact, being that it's an old 308, Ferrari won't care.
Yeah.
If they would have done that with the newest, been on their door with the cease and desist or something from Ferrari saying, what in the hell are you doing?
You're on one end, like, this is not good. My wife's on the other end going, I want to hate it, but it's really hard to.
Is she still on her pain meds?
She liked it. She saw they executed the vision. They did what they said they were going to do. Yes, it's reminiscent of that Corvette. And so I sit in the middle. I sort of love it and I hate it at the same time because there's parts of it I really like. I like the asymmetrical Italian flag paint scheme. I like the front end minus the braces. There's other pieces that I absolutely despise. I think the back is terrible. I thought that just like the slot machine thing, the revolving transporter style rotating license plate was a really cool piece of engineering.
Yeah, that kid's really good at that. Fabs have come up with solutions for that. That was brilliant.
But they left that bare aluminum, and I'm like, that should have been black and blended into the rear end, all this kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. So there's parts of it I didn't like. There's parts I like. Now, going back and reanalyzing it in slow motion and in still to prepare the article where we review all this stuff in more detail, I noticed at certain angles, it really made it look like a second generation MR2.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah, you're right.
And I'm like, oh, God. And then in my head, I'm going, oh, this is like the 308 Fiero builds. And it gave it this like kit car feel. And that's why I sort of sit in the middle because you're looking at it going, is that a real 308 or is that a fake 308 built on something else? And that's where it's sort of like, it's cool, but they ruined it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. But they did walk away with a pretty sizable payday on it.
Yeah, they made some money. But you made the comment about the paint job. I don't know how closely you looked at it. I might have paused. I think it was crooked.
Yes.
So you saw it too. All right, so it's not just me. And when they did it, I would say a close-up of it, but they got kind of close. It was almost like the one rear three-quarter view they got on it. It was a horrible paint job. It was almost like a rattle can job.
My wife pointed that out in the night shots. She said that satin finish looks really neat during the day, but at night, it almost had like an orange peel and it looked like it was unfinished. Like they needed to spray it again and put some clear on it. Like it really did reflect very oddly in the dark. So I agree with that. And then to your point about the crooked thing, I joked and I said, is he trying to do what he did on the Camaro where the lines weren't straight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's cool. It looked good on the Camaro. because again, that was an asymmetrical black on one side, orange on the other. I don't know. I think Mark's trying new things. I will say, and I've always said, which is what was disappointing about this car, he's a really good painter.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the stuff he can do, especially that Corvette where he did that gradiated from dark blue all the way to silver so it looked like a shark.
I guess you could say that might have saved him a bit too, is putting all those gadgets on there, getting that extra 18 grand they made out with. You know, the other thing too, you didn't see the interior.
The same thing on the DeLorean when they redid it.
Yeah.
They didn't show you the inside.
No, and supposedly they were supposed to redo on the DeLorean. It's, we're going to re all leather this and that. And then, so you didn't even see it. It's just exterior, tacking on some appendages, painting it, and putting it out the door. Unbelievable. But that paint job was horrendous. So again, I'm glad you saw it too, because as soon as I saw him go down the road, I go, wait, that line is not straight. I mean, it's just blatant because you got red on white there, and it just goes off at an angle. Sad thing is that theme could have been done a lot better, but execution wasn't there. Again, because of the time crunch or what? I don't know. The way it was painted with the color and stuff like that really accentuated. There was no flow to it. You could tell the shit was just bam, 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 put on. It wasn't like they did anything to make it nice and smooth. And when they're saying, we're going to eliminate that one channel that's going down, kind of separate.
And they ended up leaving that at the end too. It was like,
exactly.
Okay, whatever.
So I don't know.
That would have been a lot of Bondo in that crevice.
Buckets and buckets. We're not ruining the episodes for you guys by telling you what's going on happening if you haven't watched it. Trust us. You need to watch it to see what this is, because then you're going to be like, oh my God, I see what they're talking about, because there's really no good way to paint the picture.
And I think we leave our listeners with the question, if you're going to modify an exotic, especially a Ferrari, what camp are you in? And there's multiple lanes. You could be on the far left, like these cars are, just like they came out of the Hot Wheels packaging, or you could be on the other side where it's, I'm going to do some vinyl, I'm going to put on some wheels, a sport exhaust. Where is your happy medium? Where's your comfort level of customization? And I think that's the moral to the story with a lot of this. And someone's creative vision doesn't necessarily always align with what you want, your expectations as a buyer, as a collector. And that's why I think some of the cars that are on that far left side are extremely hard to move. And it begs the question, where do they end up? Where's that green 360 after a year? Like, who's got that car? Like, I've never seen it at a show. I didn't see it at Car Week. I haven't seen it in a museum. You'd think it would end up at like the Volo Museum, you know, with all the other crazy cars that they have. But it's sort of like tucked in a warehouse somewhere, never to be seen again, probably being converted back to a stock 360, you know?
In this day and age, obviously with YouTube, Instagram, all your social media platforms, everything like that, if it's a well-known car and put out there and the person that owned it got a crap load of followers, whatnot like that, moving it to someone that just worships whoever the person is and getting rid of it usually isn't too bad. But beyond that, that's just a drop in the bucket. You see these companies that sell the kits and everything like that. For that one you see on a YouTube channel, there's 15, 20 other kits they sold to someone else. You're getting into the personalization programs these manufacturers have for all of them now. I mean, all your high-end stuff, they have it because they can make 90% profit on these things. It's unbelievable. You're getting it so specific in regards to your own taste. What are you going to do when you go to sell? Because you're going to have to find that person. Okay, I can live with half the stock, three-quarter stuff on there. Yeah, I probably might have done maybe that in the color, but I can deal with it. You know, with vinyl wraps and stuff like that, you can change the exterior color pretty easily. But option-wise, you know, that's kind of where you get stuck. It's like, oh, I wish I would have had this and that, but I'll live without it. Because once it's hacked up like that, and it's one thing if you remove body panels off and you're putting whole new panels and sections on, you had to do a little massaging to make it work, but it wouldn't take all that much to turn it back to original. Are you keeping all those panels like that so any subsequent owner down the line say, look, here's all the stuff that came off the car. You can turn it back if you want. Some of those manufacturers, those kits kind of push that, saying, look, oh, it's bolt on, bolt off. Yeah, maybe we got to do a little of this and that. I mean, how true it is, I don't know. What are you going to do? Just, oh, here's the car. I mean, you got to have someone that's like, I love it. That's my style. I don't know, because it changes the car, especially if you start messing with stance. You're making it wider. You're making it lower. You're doing all these things. You got these guys tacking on having 1,500 horsepower, this kind of stuff too.
You know what it is, William? We're looking at the wrong car shows. We need to be looking at Radwood and not Car Week.
Yeah. You would think, to your point on that green 360, at least you think the guy would take it to some car shows or it's not that, because, you know, I'd say it's a famous car, but it's decently well known. I don't know what the viewership is for this show, but people go, oh, that's that car from God. And I'd love to see that thing in person because, God, I only can imagine how bad it is in person.
Yeah.
Pictures of it, seeing that thing in person, be like, oh my God, it's worse than I thought.
You know, it's funny. We've always tried to track the newer, what I call restoration shows. And to your point about viewership, car masters seem to to have outlasted a bunch of other ones, whether it was Rust Valley Restorers or Goblin Works Garage, or even last year they did that one down in El Paso that has disappeared.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. They're talking about saying going into nostalgia and going that kind of stuff. My personal interpretation at the end of this season, they're going into replica movie cars.
Yeah.
Totally different genre in regards to markets of it. And there's a decent sized market for that, but you got to do it right. You can't just hack it together like some of the stuff they've done. I mean, you have to have that thing dead nut spot on for authenticity.
That's where this season ends. I'm a fan of the show. My wife and I have been watching since the very first season because we thought the concept was really cool. And they leave us with them pushing in a 66 Imperial, the Black Beauty from Green Hornet, and they're on this whole nostalgia kick. And this 308 was allegedly the beginning, even though I think the DeLorean was the beginning of this nostalgia thing. And we're going to build other stuff. The Nautilus from Legal Extraordinary Gentlemen. We're going to build, maybe Kit, who knows? And that's cool. And that falls into that Hot Wheels sort of thing that Mark is very good at and the team can get all excited about. The Ferrari saga is over at this point. I think they put that to bed.
They did that Pachanga car for the casino. That was cool. I like what they did with that. I mean, that theme car and whatnot, what they did, and they did the slot machine wheels, that steering wheel, everything was really cool. That thing turned out really nice for what its purpose was and intent was. That thing was fantastic. That looked great. And in our minds, that's, I think, their niche is doing stuff like that. You're getting into almost kind of an Orange County chopper situation.
Yeah.
But you're doing it with cars. And in previous seasons, it seemed to my person is that's where they were good at, and they moved cars and they made good money on.
Yep.
Just steer clear of the other stuff because that's not their forte. I know as creative as Mark likes to say he is, and all of this and that. He's not. I think it takes some stuff and making these replica movie cars and what he's done in the past and executing them. He's got a great team behind it. Mark can stick with his paint job, make these things look spectacular because he's a great painter. Give him that. But as for coming out and really designing a whole car to tweak it or whatever you want to call it, for him, I would say, to your point, I think that would make the show that much better if, okay, Mark handles stuff. You see the business side. He goes out, finds the cars, do whatever, get rid of Sean and shows him doing the painting and everything on it, prepping, all that kind of stuff. Tony's on their side going through, hey, how we did this stuff like that.
Here's how you build a flux capacitor.
Showing how they did it, especially going with these movie cars, because those things always have these cool little things. And if they're fully functional and work, people want to know how you did it and incorporate in the car and how'd you tie it in. Because some people are watching that going and saying, well, yeah, I'm bored. I'm going to see if I can hook something like that in my car. You'll learn from it. And I like watching stuff like that. I like watching the shows and YouTube and stuff like that, shows with the build process. Not so much rebuilding wrecked cars, which seem to be a big thing. I like the stuff where the guy's taking the car, doing the modification, making it better, and how they went about doing it. That's just really impressive to me because, having that ability to do it and complete it is impressive. And I think that's the way they should go, in my opinion. And I think they would do a lot better viewer-wise. You're going to turn a lot of people off coming in, taking a Ferrari and hacking it up and just making it gaudy. I'm going to watch this because if that's what they think this is, forget it. I'm not going to. It'd be really interesting to see numbers-wise from the end of season 5 going into 6, what happened in regards to, was there a big drop? What were the demographics of the people that you lost? I thought there were only 6 episodes. So when I got done with episode 6, I'm like, all right. But then also the thing pops up in the bottom. Next episode, I'm like, oh, wait, there's more? And then luckily, my wife's out of town. So I was like, well, I got nothing else to do. So all right, I'll watch the next episode. And then it got into it. I'm like, where it ended up. And again, it seemed like, all right, now it's like it was a half season. It's like, okay, you guys, the way you ended this, it seems like should be more episodes.
And I think the bigger question for us, and I know you're a newer fan, you haven't been following the show from day one, is there going to be a season 7? We don't know. We probably have to wait till sometime in 2025 to see. But it seems like they're going to keep doing what they do. But are you going to keep watching it? Are you that kind of intrigued to see what their antics and what they're up to next?
Next season comes out. When it does, I'm going to watch it. Yeah, I want to see where they go because I think these replica movie cars, I think could be a good route to go for them. Those are tough cars that they choose to build right off the bat. That's for sure. But there's good money in those things. Yeah. Real good money. Be interesting to see where they head. Let's hope they got all that other stuff out of their system. To your point, what you said before is what tweaks they make to the cast. Finding what you need to build those cars isn't too difficult because you're going to basically tear those things down to the frame anyways. There's rust on the body and like that. I mean, you can start with something that's pretty bad.
And I'm glad you brought that up. And that's kind of my final thought on this. And my wife made it really, really clear when we wrap this whole thing up, kind of thinking about this season, previous seasons, and where they're going next. She goes, did you notice that this was the rust-free season? They're going to have to change their tagline, rust to riches, because not a single one of those cars had rust on them.
I said the same thing. I go, that title's not working anymore, guys. There was no rust involved whatsoever. They were even saying it. Wow, there's nothing on this body. It's fantastic. There's no rust anywhere. The rocker panels are fantastic. I'm like, you guys got to just change this to Car Masters building movie replicas, something. But yeah, I had the same thought. Yeah, the titles is not going to work for you guys anymore.
All right, well, bring us home, William.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. As you can see, Eric's cracking the whip on me to get more episodes out on a more consistent basis. So remember to leave some comments and your thoughts and feelings, because we'd love to hear you and get your feedback and see what you guys think of what Car Masters did with these Ferraris. So let us know how you feel, guys. Remember to go over to motoringpodcast.net to check out all the other episodes we have in regards to not just the Ferrari marketplace, but the other podcasts we have on there. There's some fantastic stuff on there, and we're adding more as we speak. Just keep an eye on that. Hit that up as your favorite, because there's some really cool things happening there. Check out the exotic car marketplace. We did a little bit of an overhaul the other week on that. So we rearranged some stuff in that. We're tweaking it as we go to see what we want to see, everything like that. And stay tuned to Rock and Rev's website also for the show next year will be updated. The date is July 27th. So keep that in mind. More stuff will be coming out on that. We appreciate you listening, and stay tuned. More to come. Thanks, guys.
This episode has been brought to you by Grand Touring Motorsports as part of our Motoring Podcast Network. For more episodes like this, tune in each week for more exciting and educational content from organizations like the Exotic Car Marketplace, the Motoring Historian, Break Fix, and many others. If you'd like to support Grand Touring Motorsports and the Motoring Podcast Network, sign up for one of our many sponsorship tiers at www.patreon.com/GT Motorsports. Please note that the content, opinions, and materials presented and expressed in this episode are those of its creator, and this episode has been published with their consent. If you have any inquiries about this program, please contact the creators of this episode via email or social media as mentioned in the episode.